Hey guys, it's Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms here in the beautiful mountains of North Carolina. What a day today. Yeah, that's right, man. It's beautiful out here. Spring is in the air, and it's time for a very interesting, very different video. Today I'm going to be talking about these box right here and this box right here. I'm going to be talking about free-to-air satellite systems, FTA satellite systems. Now, satellite for consumer use dates way back into the 70s. C-band, those big 10-foot dishes like this one here. Yeah, I had one of those when I was growing up. In fact, I had one all the way through 2012, I think, or 2013 when I finally moved away from my first farmhouse and into this one. There was a time when you could go out and get these signals for free, and then there was a time after that when you had to go out and pay for them, but you could get an individual channel. They called that a la carte, and so C-band was big on that. You had your VC2 to scrambler, and you had that thing hooked up, and you'd call a place up and you'd say, I want to buy 3 months of the History Channel, and it'd be like $2 or $3 for 3 months. It was an incredible time to be alive, and of course TV was a little more interesting back then as well. But anyway, that eventually turned into a system called 4D TV. That was when they went to digital or DC2 signals, and then eventually the whole thing faded out. But alongside of it, actually alongside of it from the very beginning, was signals that we weren't really they weren't channels, live feeds, backhauls they call them. And so a lot of this has changed over the years, but back in the day you would catch like the main feed, like let's say we were going to play reruns of Family Ties on the air, right? Well, they would have a master feed that played those hauls, those backhauls or back feeds, whatever they were called, and they would play them without commercials, you know, at a certain time of day. And if you knew where to look and when to look, well, you could get these master feeds for free, and they would be pretty cool. So that was something we played with. And that was considered free-to-air, FTA. So anyway, time rolls on, and then they went to digital formats. First they went to MPEG formats, and now I don't know what format they're really using. I think there's high-definition ones of varying degrees. But these digital formats made it a little harder for you to track down all these cool signals because a lot of this stuff comes and goes. Most of the feeds you're going to see, like let's say there's a football game or maybe a fight you want to watch on TV. Well, you have to know when and where, and a lot of times that stuff's not announced. You just have to be scanning the skies to catch this stuff. So anyway, that's it for the history lesson. Let's talk about what it takes to get some of these signals. Not all of them, but some of these signals now. And that is something like this. This is a very inexpensive, I don't believe this is high definition. This is DVB-S2, DivX. It does say 1080, so maybe it is, but this was extremely inexpensive, and I'll just open this up here and show it to you. We'll get more in depth once this thing is all set up and running, but this is called a FTA descrambler box, and this one's made by DMY Co. Whatever. There you go, and you can see how compact these things are. This one also hooks to the internet, so you get some apps kind of like a Roku box might have or whatnot, but this one has your FTA in, that's your signal coming in from the satellite, and then it has a loop out or line out. This one does have HDMI out. Looks like it's more for European market because that's a SCART connection there. I think it's called SCART, S-C-A-R-T. And then you got a LAN connection, a USB, which is for recording. So that's really cool about these things is you can have a USB on here. You can record a feed for as long as you like or as long as you have space for it. And that makes that kind of fun. So you're going to need one of those. You're obviously going to need some coax, quad shielded coax being better than regular coax, but either one would probably work as long as the feed is long enough, the line is long enough, or short enough, I should say. The other half is this, and that is a free-to-air dish, and LNB. LNB is like the receiver, the antenna itself. So the dish is just like that. It's a collector. All the signal comes down and it hits that dish. And then it's reflected to a small receiver antenna that's actually quite small. Not too dissimilar from DirecTV or Dish Network satellite dishes you see now, but slightly larger. Now, if you want to pick up the really cool stuff, the good stuff, I won't say the good stuff, but the really cool stuff and a lot of free channels that are available just unscrambled, you're going to want to get a C-band dish, and that's going to be, larger than this one. This one here is about, well, it's just shy of 4 feet. I think it's like a 40-inch or 41-inch. And you would need to get accurately or get a high quality C-band signal, you're going to need an 8.5 to a 10 foot. In some fringe areas you might even need a 12. So that kind of puts that part of the hobby outside of most folks' wants or needs. Let's leave it that way. I had plenty of room in my old house for something like that, and if I could get my hands on one, I would certainly do that again because it certainly is fun. But these big dishes, these are motorized dishes that go from satellite to satellite. You do a scan, and you can find all the channels that are out there. On an FTA system like this, you can also put a motor on this and scan amongst multiple satellites. For myself, and I'll get into this in part 2, I really want this to look at one particular satellite, and I'll get into why I want it on that particular satellite in part 2. But let me go ahead and open it up so you can see. Again, this is not going to look too dissimilar from what you would see in a Dish Network or DirecTV type setup, just slightly larger than those dishes and also shaped more of a rounded style. And this is a big boy. Notice that's your feed arm, so you're going to bolt that to your dish, and your LNB will sit here. There we go. That is the dish to give you an idea of the size we're talking about. So not terribly enormous, and I believe, if I am not mistaken, this is the maximum size dish, 39 to 41 or something like that for most people, that your homeowners associations are going to allow, or they can't block you from having. Just like they can't block you from having a television antenna on your roof in most locales, they can't block a satellite dish up to a certain size. So that's what this thing's going to be, and it's not even that deep a dish if you look at it, but it's going to be sitting at a certain rate. This is called an offset. That means that instead of having the LNB directly here, it's going to be coming down and facing at a slight angle upward to get that full signal strength. So that's that there. And there's really not a whole lot more in here. There's probably a mounting bracket on the rear and some other stuff that I won't get into today. Here's your mount stand for it. Now you can sit this thing and drill it into the side of a building. Yeah, the rest of that's just packing. You can sit that on the side of a building, or you could probably, if you want to have a better signal, you're going to put that little bag of concrete and a pole in the ground and set it on there. That way it doesn't wobble in the wind. Wood flexes, expands and contracts, and certainly if you're going to put it on a deck or something like that, that deck's going to move a little bit. And what you'll find out here in part 2 when I'm putting this thing together is that the accuracy is very important. Having this thing lined up perfectly is very important to getting those signals out there in outer space. You're talking about satellites transmitting at 22,000 miles away. That's a pretty far shot now. Anyway, I am no expert on the subject. I'm an expert on the history of it because I was big into it back in the 90s and into the 2000s, but I have not kept up with this hobby much in the last decade or so. But because of certain things going on online right now, the way that they're kind of molding what we're allowed to see online, I wanted to have access to more freer ways to get information. And live feeds, a way of seeing stuff happening as it's happening and not the curated kind of modified, changed way that they want to show you something, was something that interests me. If you're interested in learning a lot more about FTA, Robbie Strike, and a fellow YouTuber here, has an excellent channel that talks all about free-to-air stuff and has tons of videos on setting up systems, locating certain satellites, and he even does reviews of various products. In fact, thank you, Robbie. Robbie helped me decide on what dish to get for what I was trying to do, and even recommended a few receivers. Anyway, that's it for part 1 of free-to-air satellite systems here on Farpoint Farms. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, perhaps you will think about liking and subscribing, because in part 2, we'll get this booger in the ground, and in part 3, well, we'll scan the skies and see what's out there. Till then, though, take care.
There's always something that needs a little fixing on Farpoint Farms. Freedom is mighty sweet, liberty sows its